Nepomniachtchi might easily become the next classical world chess champion if he manages to beat Dean Liren in their upcoming match. And regardless of the result, many people will start to say, yeah, but it doesn't really count because Magnus hasn't played, Magnus is still the best, and so on. And of course they have a point, but to be objective, nobody is guilty that Magnus refused to play this match. But today I want to show you the game where Nepomniachtchi just destroyed Magnus Carlsen completely, and yeah, hopefully you're gonna enjoy it. Doesn't mean that Nepo is stronger than Magnus, not at all, it just means that he's capable of beating Magnus. So the game happened in 2020. Nepomniachtchi played as white. The game started with e4, c5, the Sicilian defense, the opening of real champions. Now knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, knight c3, and a6. That is called the Knight variation, extremely popular among the top level grandmasters. And the reason is it's so powerful, it's so complicated that you can play it as both sides and win a great number of games. But low-rated players don't really like it because, well, for the same reason, you have to know so much theory to be able to play it, as there are so many different variations for white. For example, at this point, there are so many different moves: bishop e3, bishop d5, bishop e2, bishop c4, h3, and so many more. Like, yeah, it's just incredible. This game, for example, is not an exception. Something very interesting happened here on this move. White played the move rook to g1 here immediately. I mean, this knight is incredible. You can play pretty much whatever you want and it would still be reasonable. The rook g1, you kind of surprises the opponent, and of course you want to push the g pawn and be very aggressive here from the very beginning. Of course, there is a very obvious drawback. The king is not gonna castle this side, and if he castle one side, also the king won't be really that safe. So, well, you're kind of taking a huge positional risk. But let's see what happened here. b5 has been played. Well, Magnus is saying, you want to attack me here. As the Sicilian defense laws say, I'm gonna attack on the opposite side. I'm gonna create some threats and give you a checkmate. So g4, bishop b7. Now this bishop is developed here. The e4 pawn is under attack. But Nepo says, I just don't care about this pawn. I just want to continue with my plan. Play g5, sacrifice this central pawn. I mean, how amazing that is, and that is just the beginning of this game. Knight takes e4, knight takes, bishop takes. So white is a pawn down, this rook is on g1, so no castle, the king is completely opened in the center of the board, there is this weird pawn on g4, g5, and what is the point of all of that? Let's try to see. Now Nepo plays a4, another amazing move, now attacking from this side. So you can never guess where the skin is going, because there is just literally no safe place on the entire board. And by the way, I just don't recommend you to repeat it in your own chess games, because it's gonna end very badly. You can do it only if you're Nepomniachtchi. So e5, now black is attacking in the center, attacking this knight, and, well, asking a question, what are you gonna do? Because, well, going back somewhere, it's gonna be very passive, and black would have time to continue the development. But Nepo says, I don't care about this knight, I just take it on b5, and, well, the knight is just a knight. Who cares? So the point is, if you take this knight, it hasn't been played by Magnus, but then queen takes d4, just sacrificing the knight completely. Queen goes to e7, creating a lot of here discover attacks. Bishop e3, just blocking this diagonal, and basically playing like nothing happened, like everything is normal, and saying that, well, the development is much better here. This rook is very active. This rook is very active. The queen in the center covers a lot of squares, and yeah, that would be a crazy game. But Magnus decided not to take this knight on d4. Instead, what he did was bishop e7, just continuing the development, saying that, well, this knight is still hanging. I'm also keeping an eye on this pawn on g5, and of course I want to castle to finish my development. But, well, nobody wanted this knight. Black didn't want to take it, white didn't want to save it, and instead Nepo played the move rook to g4, attacking this bishop. Now a takes b happened, And that is basically offering this exchange. But the point is, I mean, the rook is not blundered, it's protected by the bishop. And the point is, if you take, then bishop takes, and basically you are dealing with this attack. So it's like a multiple function move. But the drawback is, of course, that the b5 pawn is still hanging. So bishop takes b5 has been played with a check, with a tempo. And now knight d7, which is an inaccuracy. The right move was just to play king f8. But I mean, king f8 is a very difficult move to make because your king is now not safe here on f8, and also this rook is completely blocked, and yeah, I don't see a good way to develop it. So yeah, chess is a very complicated game. So knight d7 seems like a very reasonable move, but it's an inaccuracy. Let's see why. So white just played bishop d2, and that is the best move in the position, developing this bishop, and apparently the best square for the bishop is d2, because otherwise if you go to e3, then knight could be taken with a tempo, and also the queen is now protecting this rook on a1. So bishop b7 happened. Bishop just went back because now it's really under attack. And then knight f5. The knight is very active here, creating a lot of threats. Now you could see the drawback of the move bishop to e7. Also the d6 pawn might be vulnerable at some point. Castles. Once again, a logical move, but actually it's a mistake here. Rook takes a8. That is a huge mistake by Nepo, because here, instead of that, there was a beautiful move for white. Can you pause the video for a second and try to find it? Here white plays rook a8. And yes, engine says that it's a mistake because it misses a huge advantage. The right move was the incredible rook g to a4, and suddenly this rook is more active along the a file after the exchange. Not only it can go back to the king side and create some checkmating ideas, but also it could be very active along the a file, and well, that is a huge difference. Like here the rook is on g4, takes, and the bishop is on a8. The evaluation of this position is roughly equal. But this position with the rook on a4, rook a4, takes is +3 for white. So yeah, chess is an incredibly complicated game. But let's focus on this one. So here rook takes, bishop takes, and yeah, that was pretty logical. I mean, Nepo is focusing on the attack on the king side. He doesn't care about the queen side a lot, so he played rook h4, just immediately creating some threats here, targeting the h7 pawn. g6 has been played, also a logical move, like stopping the queen h5 idea and also attacking this knight, but the problem is, of course, a lot of weak squares are created as a result of this move. Now queen to g4, sacrificing this knight, and if you take it, then the queen can just take on f5 or even go to h5 and just give a checkmate. There is no way to defend it. So queen g4, Magnus played knight c5, trying to activate more pieces into the game, and now queen to h3, still doubling along the h file, and there is only one move here that doesn't lose for black. Can you pause the video and try to save Magnus Carlsen? So Magnus played here h5, and that's a huge mistake that just loses the whole game completely. And the idea is clear: if you take it with a pawn, then everything is great. The rook is here hanging, the knight is hanging, and most importantly, the skin is now safe. But yeah, we will see what happened next. The right move was bishop to takes g5, just giving up this h7 pawn. And the idea is, if you take it, threatening a lot of checkmates, rook h8, rook g7 is a checkmate, but bishop takes d2, now king takes, and now the queen is coming all of a sudden to the g5 square with a check, the king goes somewhere, and yeah, the problem is this king is kind of naked here. I mean, there are no real defenders for the king. For example, if you go back, then I can just take it here already, and the queen is covering everything. There are no checkmating ideas for white, and yeah, black is completely winning here. So the right move here, the only one which saves the game, is bishop takes g5, just sacrificing the h7 pawn. The idea is then you take it with a check, and then you come with a queen with a check, and the queen is a very good defender here. The king goes somewhere, and then you just take the knight, and there are no checkmate for white, and so black is completely winning. But Magnus Carlsen played the move h5 here instead. The idea is clear: if you take it with a pawn, then you're blocking all of your pieces and you can never give a checkmate. And also the rook is here hanging, the knight is hanging, so white is completely lost. But the problem is, Jan Nepomniachtchi played here rook takes h5, and then the game is completely winning for white. And so g takes h, queen takes h5, knight a6, and Magnus resigned here, not waiting for Nepo to deliver a checkmate. Please try to stop the video for a second and try to find a checkmate here for white. Okay, there are multiple ways to get a victory here, but g6 seems to be the best option because it threatens an immediate checkmate. Queen to h7, there are two ways to deal with it. First of all, what happens if you take? Just queen takes, king goes to h8, queen h6 check, king goes back, and then queen takes e6 check, just winning this knight. And now if you try to block it, the knight goes to h6 with a fork, and the knight is also protected, so that's basically a checkmate, and also it's just a lot of extra pieces for white here. Bishop goes to d3 and we deliver a checkmate. If you play knight g5 instead, trying to just cover this h7 square completely, then, well, there are multiple ways to win, but the best one is bishop to c4, creating another threat here, attacking the f7 pawn, and basically, yeah, that would be unstoppable. And if you try to block the diagonal, which seems to be very logical, then we are playing bishop takes g5. You could have done it earlier too, but queen a5 was a problem, and then the queen was under attack. Now, if you go queen a5, it's possible just to play king e2, and there is no queen takes b5 check. So that is why this bishop c4 was important, and otherwise there is no way to stop the check. So here you have it. That is how Jan Nepomniachtchi destroyed Magnus Carlsen in a real chess game. And let me know in the comments, please, whether you think that he's going to become the next world chess champion, or you would rather say that Dean Liren is going to win the match.